And he did make the comment that he says he thinks this structure would be fair because people who have more could pay more, and that would help the people who have less. And he says nothing wrong with spreading around the wealth. And a lot of people have jumped on that comment.
Exactly.
Saying it's socialism, taking money from one group and giving it to another. Now, I got the facts. He wants to raise the tax rate on people who have profits after their expenses and paying their taxes on what they make over $200,000, okay, $250,000. He wants to raise it up.
$250,000.
Yeah, $250,000. He wants to raise the tax rate to 39%. Right now we're about with 34-35% on that group.
Okay, so you're looking at a 5% increase.
Yeah. Is that outrageous?
No, it's not. Unless, of course, you're rich as hell, then it's completely outrageous.
And he says this will give him the leeway to give that 95% a tax break. We're going to adjust it.
Yeah.
Now, people say that's socialism. You're going to take from the rich and give to the poor, like Robin Hood. Let me educate you, folks. You think that's a high rate, 39% going for people who make $250,000, maybe $1 million, maybe $1 billion? You think that's outrageous?
Here's a little history lesson for you. So get out your pencils and pens. We're going to quiz you later.
All right. Let's go back to 1945. 1944-45. Guess what the tax rate?
End of World War II.
People who made $200,000 or more, 94% tax rate.
That means they paid the majority of the taxes in this country, folks.
Now, were we a socialist country back then?
No, in fact, we were at the height of our patriotism. We were at the height of our democracy.
Was World War II.
It was the end of World War II.
Were people crying? Were all these rich people making this kind of money and more? Were they crying?
And mind you, we were in the hearth of a renaissance of industrialism in this country. We were creating jobs. People had soldiers who were honored were coming home to work, to jobs.
Nobody questioned this, huh?
No.
94% tax rate if you made $200,000 or more in America, 1945. Okay, so we have a history of taxing people who make more.
Skip along a few years.
Yeah, let's go to 1950s, a great time. We say it was the apex of our country that decade, the 1950s.
Here we are at our patriotic height. Here we are at our economic height.
People making more than $400,000 were taxed at a 91% tax rate. Get it? Get it? This continued on. This continued on till 1963, when JFK lowered it. You know what he lowered it to?
What?
77%.
Wow. So you got a big tax decrease. You were paying less taxes.
39% looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Compared to the 94% that you were paying, that our grandparents were paying in 1945.
That means, Mike, during the 1950s, while Dwight D. Eisenhower, a Republican, was president, it was 91% the tax rate on this upper strata group.
And mind you, we were involved in a war for 3 years.
Was he a socialist?
1950s. No.
Was he a communist?
Nope.
Was he playing Robin Hood, taking money from the rich and giving it to the poor?
Absolutely not.
But, yes, McCain and Palin would say so.
Oh, yeah.
The Republicans would say so, but this was a Republican president who had the tax rate on this group 91%. All right, JFK brought it down to 77%, and it stayed 70% until 1981. It came down to
Reagan's first term in office.
Came down to 69. Then it went down to 50 in 1982. All right?
And mind you, that was another economic renaissance. Reaganomics.
50% still we were paying in the 80s to this upper strata of the most wealthy in our country.
Yep.
Were we a socialist nation then?
Nope.
Was the president who had this high tax standard for the most wealthy, was he a socialist?
Nope.
Was any of them claimed to be socialist for this high tax?
If anything, the President of the United States in 1982, Mr. Ronald Reagan, was a Republican. We were in another big spike of financial prosperity in this country.
All right, Ronald Reagan, you mentioned him. Now, he was the guy who said trickle down.
Trickle-down economics.
We got to let the wealthy keep more of their wealth so they have more money to create more jobs for you schlubs out there, you lowlifes, you riffraff, so you could have a job.
Yes.
Well, he brought it down in 1988 to 29%, the lowest.
His last year in office.
For a group who made below 300... get this. Here's what you had to make. 29,000. I mean, he brought it way down.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people. Now, it went back up, 1993 to 39%.
During Clinton's first full year in office.
Clinton brought it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Remember, he did increase taxes.
Yes, he did.
And I guess on the most wealthy as well. Now it went down. I guess W brought it down, and it's down to like 35. Barack Obama wants it raised at about 4 or 5 points. He's being called a socialist who wants to take wealth from one group and give it to another. When we look throughout the history, it's been way higher. It's been 91 when Eisenhower was in. It was 77 when JFK was in.
Democrat.
This is the history of the tax code of our country. Now, going up a few points to help the situation from getting money from those who could afford it the most. But that's not American. Yes, it is. We just look at the history. That is American. We've been fooled, folks. We've been fooled. Mike, we've been fooled into thinking that if we let the wealthy keep a lot of their money, it's going to benefit us.
No.
How's that worked out? You know what they do?
It has never benefited us.
They're going to create businesses to benefit themselves.
Exactly.
Anyway. And they're going to hire people. They have to. They can't do all the work themselves.
No.
They're going to hire people anyway. Allowing them to have more money creates more money in their bank account.
Exactly.
Less money in the coffers of the country, the government. So they still have to run things. Where have they got in the extra money if it's not from the higher echelon? It's been from us.
Yep.
So we're paying more, running this country off the back of the middle class.
Yep.
While the richer get rich, and they would have created jobs and businesses anyway, and they're just creating more wealth for themselves.
Well,
we've been lied to a large degree, and we've gone away from history. And now they're trying to rewrite history, saying Barack Obama wants to raise the interest, the tax rate a few points on the wealthiest is socialism. That's just not true.
I've said it before, Jeff, and it bears repeating. To quote the great comedian Carlin, he said this, and he goes, "You know how to describe the economic and social classes in this country? The upper class keeps all of the money, pays none of the taxes.
That's what's been happening.
The middle class pays all of the taxes, does all of the work. And the poor are there just to scare the shit out of the middle class, keep them showing up at those jobs."